Hi, my name is Jess Klein, and I am going to go over a few mock-ups that Chris Appleton and myself worked on for the Mozilla Thimble app tool. Basically, we reconsidered the UI as well as the UX after doing some of the initial user tests. We found that there were a lot of various kinds of UX as well as UI issues that really we could resolve with some very simple changes to the interface. So I'm going to go through some of the mock-ups, and I'm going to provide some channels for conversation and discussion at the end of this little screencast, so that we consider the feasibility in consideration of our upcoming release. So the first screen you see here is basically the basic screen that you would get. You can see some of the differences in this version compared to previous versions is that there is a toolbar, and I've also simplified the top percentage of the screen, partially for real estate, but partially because there was too much clutter, so it was really difficult for the user to see exactly what their tools were that they needed to click on, what the buttons were, and what buttons related to what kind of interaction. So on the left-hand side, for example, you'll see that there's an editor, and the right side, you'll see there's a very small description of what's preview. On the left side, we have the buttons that relate specifically to the editing. So you'll see the undo buttons, the redo buttons, the ability to turn on and off hints. And I added a button here which is text size, which many of our users complained that the text was too small, and I wanted to give the ability to be able to change the size of the text with a simple click of a button. You'll notice that I've incorporated two different buttons now for publishing and saving, and one is called Save Draft and one is Publish, and I'll talk more about that later. But those are just the names that we settled on, mainly because there was so much controversy with the saving and sharing and publishing being right next to the undo and redo in previous iterations. So this is an attempt to really clarify for the user what exactly they are clicking on, and hopefully underscore the fact that when they're clicking the Save Draft button, it's pre-publishing to the web, and the Publish button gives them options for how to take their work to the next level. My next mock-up here, you'll see this is as if a user made an error in their coding, a mistake of some sort. There are several features here which may or may not be possible, but I'm just going to throw them in. First you'll see that on the line number we have a little red arrow as well as a very faint gray highlighting of that particular line number. This is just to make sure that people see right away that A, that there's a mistake, which is signified by the red color, B, exactly where the mistake is, and C, the option to really investigate further what they can do to resolve that error. You'll notice I really was trying to hit home the idea that this was a CSS error. Again, this is something that might not be possible until further development of the Hactionary in conjunction with the MDN integration. But my idea here is that really we're giving users several key ways to understand that they've made a mistake in a particular category, so that if they keep making mistakes in that particular category of HTML or CSS, they'll kind of learn that this is something that they need to get better at. So it's reinforcing for them the lesson. So with that regard, I also made very clear little labels with the category. This is, as opposed to having just the See More button, this is really the category of what they can learn more about. Here I also have a circle with a question mark. What that is, when clicked, you'll see the mistake, the hint button really pop up in this comic bubble format. The comic bubble format is of course a change from the initial mock-ups where it was on the bottom of the screen. This is because in our initial user testing with both youth and adults, we found that it was very hard for our users to actually see where the mistakes, they couldn't really read the hint button Most of them didn't notice it, and many of them didn't chose to ignore it if they did in fact notice it. So this is trying to put it a little bit more in the user's face so that they can control what they see and what they don't see, but also, having the relationship directly to the error, the line item, the mistake, is right there. Okay, so this mock-up is in response to several things. One is the fact that many users, when they started working on the tool, couldn't really figure out exactly the fact that the right side of the screen related to the left side of the screen. Another reason we're doing this is because it is a direct scaffolding from the Mozilla X-ray goggle tool, the Hackosaurus tool. So users are going to start with kind of the Hackosaurus tool, where they're going to be inspecting code and tinkering and making very quick, small changes, and then they're progressing onto the Mozilla Thimble app, where they are really having a further, deeper exploration in web making. This is kind of a visual linking of those two tools. But it also really just helps you to quickly identify, the connection between the right pane, the left pane, as well as the fact that, the image does relate to a very specific piece of HTML. There are several ways that this could be implemented. I think for the first iteration, what would be ideal is if you were to just, only when you're clicking on the right side panel of the screen, the left panel, the highlighting happens, the X-ray goggle effect, as I'm calling it. And then when you click on the actual piece of code, everything kind of dissolves. There are other ways that we can go about this, and I'd love to really user test exactly what the best affordance is in terms of interaction. But I think that there are lots of benefits to this kind of an approach, and I really would love to see this move into the next iteration of the tool. Okay, now we're moving on to publish. As you can see here, so basically I've made two different versions of publish, which I'm not sure which one is the best and most feasible approach. Here's one approach. Basically, you click the publish button and it comes up in a nice clear modal window. And initially, right off the bat, you are asked, are you sure that you want to publish? If you hit yes, you get the next screen. If you hit no, the whole thing goes back to your editing screen. So imagine you hit yes. You get this next kind of screen within the modal window where it just basically transitions into this text, and it says here's the URL for your web page. You can have the option to copy it to your clipboard, and here's the link to edit your published page. So it gives you right away the option of editing your published page. You'll note that I removed completely any connection to social media because I felt like in its purest form, users really responded to the fact that they just wanted the link and they would be able to put it wherever they wanted. And I think if we just get that right, then we're one step ahead of where we were, a few weeks ago. So I just want to make a quick note. In our previous iterations, we had kind of fancy text and around the URL. And I wanted to show that when you're on hover over the actual text, that it will appear like a real link. It will change color, it will underline, and you can click it and go right to that page. So I'm going to just show you here is the second version of the publishing. Again, this is, you click the publish button and it's still, a bit of a modal window where the background kind of light boxes. But here it's very similar to the Flickr interaction on sharing, where you get asked right away, again, the same options before, where you want to publish your project, but it's hovering right over the button. And again, you hit no, you go back to the main screen. Yes, you go on to the next page within the kind of modal window. And here you have a few options. It's kind of an accordion effect. You can initially, it will always show you the first kind of screen within this window of the grab the URL for your web page. And again, you can copy it, and it has the same kind of affordances as the previous publish button, where you hover over and it underlines and it looks like a real URL. But here we also have the share this via, and we will integrate the social media links so they can immediately click and connect to Facebook or Twitter or wherever we would like to hook up with Google Plus. And then again, we'll have the get the link to the edited published page. It's just two different options of the same thing. Here I've integrated the social media. We could take it out just as easily. And again, there's a here is a nice little X box to close out if they just want to get off the screen. So lastly, I just want to go over the save draft. I'm not sure if this is totally possible, and I really would love it to be possible in some iteration of the project. Many of our users didn't understand right away that when they hit publish, it's going directly to the web. I think most people expect in these kinds of web editing platforms, and particularly youth, like to have that moment where they're in that comfort zone of the project being a draft, being something that is not on the web. The fact that it's going right on the web is alarming to many people, and I want to kind of give people the reassurance of that with the Save Draft button. I even made it a cool mint kind of color so that it was a calming button, because I think people expect the calm button of the Save Draft. It's just a draft. It's not on the web yet. And again, this is giving you this URL is a very clear edit URL. So I put, for example, at the end, and I don't know if this is possible, the regular web address and then -edit at the very end, so that people every part of this reads as something that is a draft. It could say draft versus edit, but just something to tell a user that this is a pre-published pre-published website or web page, I should say. Something that is easily distinguishable from the kind of things that you will see when you hit the publish button. These are the main features. One thing I want to show you is that if you go to Flickr right now, I made a Google group called Mozilla Thimble App UI/UX. I'm inviting you to join it as a public group, and you can go on and make comments directly relating to each particular part of the mock-up. If it's not possible, say if it's not possible. If you don't really like the direction we went in, let me know there so that we can really make some changes in advance. But I look forward to hearing responses, and I'm excited that we're moving forward.